What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Engo in the Morning, episode 7. Today we got a variety of topics, and of course, we'll be taking a look at let me turn that down. Of course, we'll be taking your questions, your comments, your super chats, all that stuff will be discussed in today's live stream as well. Um, let me actually grab a water because I got like a swollen tonsil or something. It's actually a lot more uncomfortable to talk than I expected. So just give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, I woke up today. Tonsils are a little bit swollen. Took a shower. I thought maybe it would clear up, but it didn't. But nonetheless, I'm gonna try my best to power through this. It probably won't be too long, to be honest. But nonetheless, I want to talk about some important stuff, like AEW not signing a top free agent. Also, I want to have a conversation about WWE in the women's division, more specifically. What would it mean for a women's mid-card belt to be there? You guys are saying the music is still playing. Now we should be good, hopefully. Hopefully that's been fixed. My bad. Still testing out things with the StreamYard software. I botched, dude. I botched. But nonetheless, I want to kind of talk about this stuff because there's a lot of stuff happening in wrestling. WWE NXT was last night, and there's just a lot of good things happening in wrestling right now between WWE, AEW. Impact is doing well, and part of Ango in the Morning is just being able to talk with you guys about wrestling, and more specifically, I think what's really cool is that before Vince McMahon left, if there was ever a free agent, and this is just kind of how I see it, but if there was ever a free agent that became on the market with Vince McMahon there, I think it was safe to say that WWE would not be signing these people. And I think when I watch AEW, I think they're a good reason for that because AEW is another alternative. They pay pretty well. They have pretty nice contracts. You get a lot of freedom with AEW. There's a lot of pros to signing with AEW. But now that Triple H is in power, it definitely makes you think what can happen. And this is one of those things where I think, despite this free agent saying that they would not sign to WWE, it could be a possibility because AEW is not signing this top free agent as well. I want to pull up my screen actually because New Japan Pro Wrestling dropped a statement. Let me see how I do this on here. Share screen, I think, is what I do. Share screen. New Japan, I think, is how I want to do it. There we go. So right here, New Japan Pro Wrestling put out a statement. There we go, guys. See, I'm learning this. This is pretty cool. I'm learning this. New Japan Pro Wrestling put out a statement with the conclusion of his contract period on January 31st, 2023. Kota Ibushi has departed New Japan Pro Wrestling. Ibushi had been recovering from injury since October 2021. We apologize to Ibushi's fans for the abrupt announcement and joining them in wishing Ibushi the very best in all of his future endeavors. So this was the statement that came out. And now Kota Ibushi is officially he's now officially a free agent. And of course, this has a lot of people wondering exactly what is going to happen with Ibushi because he got announced for WrestleMania weekend events. More specifically, he got announced for GCW, Bloodsport. And he's going to be fighting against Speedball Mike Bailey, which, by the way, I love Bloodsport. I love Speedball Mike Bailey. This, to me, is a really good, sweet, awesome thing, right? Like, I think if you're a fan of Kota Ibushi, I think if you're a fan of pro wrestling, like, this is really cool to see Kota Ibushi go to GCW. He's going to be working WrestleMania weekend. Like, if you're going to be out in LA area for WrestleMania 2023, I definitely think it's one of those things where, um, I think it's one of those things where you just definitely like you're gonna want to pay attention to all the small little events because WrestleMania is gonna be big, but we also have ROH, we have all these other events. Like it's one of those things I think a lot of people are going to enjoy. But of course, there's some reports that come out today suggesting that Kota Ibushi has no plans uh to go to AEW. And this is because he was actually asked in an interview and I don't know the exact source, so I'll try to find it and maybe put it in a link in the description. But we're going to let's throw this up on the screen. Hopefully this works. So there was this question that Kota Ibushi was asked. And he says, "Is AEW a promotion you would like to head to soon?" Ibushi says, "A lot of my friends are in AEW. My younger peers in Japan are also growing up there. Nonetheless, I don't think of going to AEW immediately. I want to have a school in Japan. Once that's been worked out, I think I'll talk with AEW." So, of course, like I said earlier in the stream, not that WWE, not that everybody will sign with WWE or join WWE at some point. Obviously, there is a greater chance that Kota Ibushi could go to WWE under Triple H's leadership. But I think anytime Kota Ibushi has ever been brought up, I think it's always been associated with AEW. And obviously that's because of the fact that Kenny Omega and Ibushi have such strong history together. Now, as a fan of Kota Ibushi, as a fan of Kenny Omega, if I'm going to be honest with you guys, I would actually prefer to see Kota Ibushi in AEW. Like, I just think it makes more sense. I just think I think not only does it make more sense, but I think also just in general with Kota Ibushi being in AEW, I think one thing that people got to realize is that Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi, there could be money in that tag team with the Golden Lovers in AEW. And I think that is something that AEW would want to take advantage of, me personally. I also think Kota Ibushi going to AEW is huge, but right now he's not signing with AEW. So does this mean Kota Ibushi would move to America and work for AEW on a full-time basis? That's a very interesting question, but he's making it very clear in this interview that he wants to start a gym, like he wants to open up his school. Like he's trying to do this thing where, he can train the next generation of wrestlers. And truth be told, he's not going to be able to do that in Japan and then also work AEW full time. So he's not signing with AEW right now, but he does admit that he would like to once everything's been worked out. He thinks he'll talk with AEW. So I think this is a really good scenario for Kota Ibushi. He's away from New Japan Pro Wrestling. He doesn't have to deal with all the bullshit that came with that. He doesn't really have to entertain WWE, but if he wants to, he probably could get a big money contract with WWE. But also at the same time, too, he's not necessarily clamoring to sign with AEW right off the rip. And I think that is something that's actually really unique. And I think that's something that's actually really good for wrestling in general. I hate to say this because it's like it's not a dig at Mercedes Moné, but imagine if Mercedes Moné did not sign with Stardom, but Mercedes Moné just literally was a legendary free agent, right? Maybe that's a little bit of an exaggerated thing, but like just imagine like there's a top name who literally goes on a world tour, works for all of these different companies, and has no contract signed. And I feel like Kota Ibushi could do that. Like he could go work AEW, right? And I think this is pretty well known with Kota Ibushi and AEW. Like obviously because of the fact that he has that relationship there, like you can do verbal handshakes, I think. Like, you don't need to have Kota Ibushi signing a whole bunch of contracts and a whole bunch of stuff. You don't need him to go to Impact and sign a whole bunch of contracts and a whole bunch of stuff. Like, he could literally just pop up, do some handshake deals, one-off matches, one-off events or whatever. That would be really cool. I think in 2023 to have a really big name. Now, obviously, there is a difference between the names that we're mentioning because some people came from WWE, some people come from New Japan, AEW, and Impact. But I do think it would be really unique to see a company put somebody on their television show without an agreement. I mean, I think the last person I can remember who did that was Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes was going into multiple companies. He went to Impact and ROH and all of these different companies, and he didn't actually sign a contract with these companies. He was just popping up, doing some storylines, and then, kind of doing his world tour. And at that time, I don't really think Cody Rhodes was that big of a name. I think he became a big name after going to ROH, going to Impact, going to AEW, going to, WWE after some time. So very interesting stuff. But, we got some comments in the chat. I want to read them. Really quick, Bacon Time did drop a super chat. I'm going to get to that in just a moment, Bacon Time. Let's see. Cameron Johnson says WWE and AEW aren't the only two wrestling companies you got. You got ROH and TNA. Well, it is Impact Wrestling. It's not TNA. But yeah, I mean, this is 100% accurate. There's just so many more companies now. And plus, MLW has MLW Underground, which will debut on Reels. I don't know too much about that channel. I don't know if I have access to it, so I don't know if I'll be able to watch it. But it is pretty cool. Like, there is a lot of good wrestling companies right now. And I think that's really important that people don't forget that. And the idea that you can go in, and no, you don't necessarily go in for money purposes, right? But you go into Impact and you have a big match with Josh Alexander. You go into AEW and have a tag team match with Kenny Omega. You could even go into NXT and have a match with Dragon Lee. Like, you can do all of these different things. There's a lot of things that you can do with wrestling in 2023. And I feel like it's just a lot healthier now than it ever was before. We did get a super chat from Bacon Time. NXT was all right last night. I think Dragon Lee debuts in crowd at Vengeance Day, like previous people have on takeovers. Your thoughts? Yeah, I think that's actually the same way that I think they're going to do it. I think Vengeance Day will be, there's going to be surprises because obviously WWE is going back on the road again. So I think it's fair to assume that there's going to be surprises. I actually also believe Dragon Lee will debut in the crowd. The only difference is I think when he's in the crowd and they're showing him attention, I think whoever is going to be the first guy to feud with Dragon Lee will actually walk up to Dragon Lee ringside when he's in the crowd and start some shit. And I think that's going to kind of, be a way to see Dragon Lee get physical or whatever. The good news is, though, I do want to talk about this, but we'll actually be doing an NXT Vengeance Day predictions show that'll be live. And I believe that's going to be Friday morning. So it's either tomorrow night or Friday morning. I have to check my calendar with how I positioned it, but definitely agree with this. And I'll definitely add more to this on the other live stream. Bacon Time, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. I appreciate you. We got tons of comments in here, so let's get cracking. Let's see. Let's see what's happening. Black Star says Dutch and Vincent most likely to debut. I don't think it's going to be NXT, but you never know. I prefer to see them in NXT for sure. Ray Parker says, as long as nothing bad happens between Cody and WWE, he's a WWE lifer for the rest of his career. Yeah, I agree. Negla K says, Ango, thanks to you, I've been watching Impact and MLW. Yeah, I always highlight the smaller companies, not because I'm trying to promote them. I don't have any ties to them. They don't pay me any money or anything. I really just like to promote good wrestling. I really do like to talk about good wrestling. And I think that's one of the things that, like, even now more than ever, like Impact, I know people hate on Impact because of their production quality. And trust me, I bury it a lot. Their production is ass. But from a storytelling, from a continuity basis, from that and the wrestling matches, my gosh, dude, they have some really good stuff on their program, and they're not afraid to try new shit. They just tried a fight pit match or pit fight or whatever the hell they called it the other week. It was like some blood sport stuff. It was sick, man. And I think that's important. Like, you got to do things outside the box. You got to try new things. You got to have fun with it. And for sure, Impact and MLW are great. True Assassin says new WWE Women's Mid-Card belt win. Yeah, so we got to talk about this. When it comes to the WWE Women division, I mean, let's just be honest. Like, it's pretty stacked. 2 women's championship belts, in my opinion, is not enough. The women's tag team, they don't have enough natural organic tag teams there. And there are rumors, and there have been rumors for a long time, that WWE would introduce mid-card championship belts for the women's division. However, it actually appears that WWE might be planning this for NXT and not the main roster. And I don't know exactly how I feel about that, because the NXT mid card for the women's division is actually also very stacked, but they don't have the same issue that Raw and SmackDown has. I've noticed when I watch Raw and SmackDown, you got a lot of people just kind of doing nothing, and then you got a couple people doing something. And I think that's a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. But nonetheless, I did want to bring this up because if WWE introduces a new mid card women's championship, whether it's NXT or main roster, there is a lot of people who could benefit from that. And that is part of the reason why I keep wondering why the hell they haven't done it yet. It's been rumored for a long time, but to not do it is an issue. And I feel like that is so strange. I really do feel like that is so strange. So, I've noticed throughout time that WWE is in a situation where, there's a lot of people who make business decisions. There's a lot of people who got to decide, and like there's just and you got to obviously execute it the right way. You got to have it planned. The women's tag team division belt is exactly what happens when you don't effectively plan long term. That's not Triple H's fault. That's Vince McMahon's fault, because Vince McMahon introduced those titles to the women's division. But nonetheless, it's the point that I'm bringing up, that if you're going to introduce a mid-card championship belt, you got to do it the right way. You got to introduce it with a long-term plan. You got to give it to people. You got to do things with it. And you can't just introduce it, do nothing, and then 6 months later get back to it with some big plans. If you're going to launch a new title, you're going to go all in with it. You just got rid of the 24/7 championship. The 24/7 championship could have been converted into a women's mid-card belt. It didn't have to be the 24/7 title, but they could have just literally converted it to something else. Like Nikki Cross could have taken the belt, thrown it in the garbage, and grabbed another belt and the next week and self-proclaimed that she is the champion, because she didn't want to be associated with 24/7 garbage, but she wanted to be, the women's intercontinental champion or whatever it may be. I'm not saying it's freaking great storytelling, but I'm just saying you could have done something logically to explain it if you wanted to. WWE didn't do that. That's an issue. So of course, that's why it's become a conversation. Of course, though, that's a big part of it. That's Relentless Wrestling says, why bring in more belts? Look at AEW with all those belts that mean nothing. Yeah, but it's not how AEW treats their championship belts. That's how AEW treats their overall booking. In AEW, the issue is never more belts, guys. Let me make that clear. I have never seen an issue. Oh, we have too many belts. That's an issue. AEW has a lot of belts, but AEW has some fundamental booking issues with the people on their TV screen that make it very difficult for them to book everybody. They're trying to get everybody on TV. They have too many belts and not enough TV time to even get their roster on TV. WWE has way more of a roster, but way more TV time to fill. It's less of an issue. Hey, Ango, lots of love from India. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Todd Crow says Impact is very good at storytelling. Guys, I agree 100%. I'm going to I know it's kind of abrupt. I know it's kind of this right here is an issue. This right here is exactly what I've been talking about. Why does AEW keep featuring indie wrestlers and wrestlers from other promotions on their shows? Their signed roster is already 100 plus that don't really get the TV time. And this, my friends, is exactly the issue. Tony Khan's issue is he has a ton of people on Dynamite and Rampage that he doesn't want them losing. So instead of putting them on TV losing, he goes and brings in an indie wrestler who can get a big pop or a cheap pop, and then they could take the loss. To be honest with you, this is what happens when you try to base your entire wrestling product over wins and losses. Trust me, this is an argument I am willing to stand very, very firm on. Wins and losses don't matter in wrestling. I know that's going to piss people off, but that is also the reality. Wins and losses don't matter on paper. Wins and losses matter visually. You just had Wardlow lose to Samoa Joe, right? Well, do I think Wardlow's buried? No, because it's how you execute it. So just because I see a one loss next to his name doesn't matter. This is the issue that AEW has. This is the issue that AEW will always have. It's one of the reasons why if I were a wrestler, I would never want to sign to AEW, because I know that I just want to be on TV. I just want to wrestle. I just want to do all these things. By the way, I'm not a wrestler, so I don't. I'm just saying though, if I were a wrestler, that is why. Albert Ponce just dropped a $10 super chat literally right as we're about to get off the air. What an interesting man. Albert Ponce dropped $10 super chat. Shout out to Albert Ponce. He says WWE needs to put the women's tag titles to rest. They are never defended due to lack of teams, and a singles title will benefit them more. And Triple H is not building on working any teams with his roster. See, that's the thing. If you look at the men's roster, 100%. The tag team division, there's tons of tag teams. There's tons of people paired together. When you look at the WWE women's roster, it's like Damage Control is just holding props at this point. And I think that's an issue. And I think this is like a really good point. Triple H he just needs to get rid of those women's tag titles. It's probably a lot easier said than done, to be fair, but he needs to get rid of those tag titles for sure. And then what I would do if I was WWE is introduce 2 mid-card belts. You could still have factions and women tag teams. Honestly, if you really, really freaking wanted to, here's the truth, right? In NXT, what I would be doing is developing a whole bunch of women tag teams, because the main roster idea of pairing a whole bunch of random people probably isn't going to work exponentially. Start preparing new and fresh tag teams in women NXT. Call them up. There you go. You have fixed your women's tag team division, right? In the meantime, still do the mid-card titles. Keep them all. Keep all the titles. Who gives a shit? But frickin' do something with it. Albert, thank you for the $10 super chat. Appreciate you. Thank you so much, brother. Yeah, this right here. Albert also joined in and said, TK is too busy looking for pop matches rather than booking his own talent. In regards to Miro, is it TK at fault or Miro for not wanting to lose? Probably both. But I don't even think the issue is Miro losing. I just think he didn't want to do some stupid shit. So, I don't know. As far as that goes, I never believe any of the outrage and shit, because I think sometimes it's done politicking, whatever it may be. I don't know. But Miro, it was reported that Miro was unhappy with booking ideas and he didn't want to do it. Yeah, I mean, if I'm not going, if I was brought in as a big name and I'm not doing anything that a big name should be doing, I probably wouldn't be doing it. Negla K dropping some facts. NXT Women's Tag Team Division doesn't have the same problem as the men roster do. Jeff Jarrett's on TV, but not the best TNT champ. Miro, scratching my head. You always overlook me, Ango. I have good questions. I didn't see your question, so drop it in the chat before I can see it. The chat moves fast, my friends. The chat moves fast. I don't overlook anybody on purpose. It's just literally looking from top to bottom. I disagree with MGT. He says it doesn't matter if Action Andretti beat Chris Jericho. He's still a jobber. No, I still like that. I like the Action Andretti, Ricky Stark storyline. I'm all for it. I support it. That's what you got to do in wrestling. Good morning, Jeffrey. Hey, Angle, where's Cameron Grimes? Is he the real Uncle Howdy? I see a lot of comparison. No. Uncle Howdy's been played by different people, but it is expected that Bo Dallas is Uncle Howdy. Suplex dropping a $4.99. What's up, Ango? I seen your YouTube channel through YouTube Shorts, much like mine. Exciting day. I know monetization starts today. Keep up the great work. Keep up the great work, brother. I see your stuff. I'm always getting a nice little giggle out of it. Yeah, man. There's a lot of potential out there in the wrestling world. I love wrestling content creators. I think it's important to have as many as possible. So I appreciate you dropping the super chat, bro. Thank you. And yeah, good luck, dude. This is a wonderful time right now. As far as being a wrestling creator goes, there is a lot of great wrestling happening. And then we got YouTube and live streams and shorts. So if you guys aren't a subscriber on this channel, make sure you definitely click that subscribe button. Shout out to Suplex for the $4.99 super chat. We're going to end it on that note. My throat is like, so I'll try to get some videos up, but I don't know if I'll do a live stream tonight because I don't know if I could really talk for like an hour plus. You know what I mean? But we'll see what happens. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by. I appreciate you. And I'll see you next time.